Welcome to the UFC 316 prop drop, where I briefly go over every single matchup on the card, give you my favorite props for every single matchup, and then end off this segment with my top 3 favorite prop spots, as well as a long shot for you guys to try to hit the lottery, hopefully, this weekend with some of these spots. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. First matchup up, Choinski going up against Mederos. I really like me some Choinski in this spot, and I was able to get plus 265 earlier this week, and now he's dropping all the way down to about that plus 165 range. So if you're feeling left out on some of the CLV that I was able to get there are some decent parlay or prop spots where we can potentially cash some tickets. And I like the Choinski by decision prop here at plus 410. I feel like he'll be able to get some dominant positions here against Mederos. Mederos obviously has a little bit of a striking advantage, but I think Choinski has assimilated to the mixed martial arts game well enough after going, being a 3-time NCAA All-American. We've seen him flawlessly integrate the BJJ game, the striking game, all to fuel that wrestling game of his, and I think he'll utilize that here to grind out Mederos. You can get decision prop at plus 410. The submission prop for Choinski currently sits at plus 550. He is a nasty arm triangle choke when he's able to get that position. I'm thinking more so a decision than a submission. On the flip side for Mederos, I think Mederos by decision. I believe that line currently sits at plus 125. I think if he wins this fight, it looks like him stopping the takedowns of Choinski and picking him apart on the feet, landing better damage and winning the fight on the scorecards if he ends up getting it done. But I'm on the Shark side here, Mark the Shark, getting this win by decision. All right, next up, we got Salkilld going up against Ashmouz. Another fight where, I feel like well, maybe not another fight. I am picking the favorite to win this matchup, but I feel there is some value on the underdog here, considering some of the approaches that he could bring to the table. Now, I expect this fight to go over 2.5 rounds, which you can currently get at minus 165. Salkilld by decision is currently minus 105. Ashmouz is very hard to put away, has very good durability, usually pushes a pace that allows him to, keep his opponents on the defensive, and usually makes it harder for them to get off on their damage and their finishing power. And I think Salkilld would struggle to finish him here. So for him to win, I think it probably comes by decision. Now, on the flip side for Ashmouz, some solid value in my opinion here. With Ashmouz by decision at plus 1,000, we've seen him utilize a strength-based grappling approach. He was able to pull it off against Trevor Peek. I think he'll have the strength advantage here over Salkilld. I think that will allow him to push Salkilld up against the cage for long periods of time, drag this fight to the ground, hopefully stay away from the BJJ black belt of Salkilld, and I think he's more than capable of grinding this fight out, winning it on the scorecards, which you can currently get at plus 1,000. And we know he has big power in his hands, right? Just ask Sam Patterson, so you can get Ashmouz by knockout at plus 950, but I'd be surprised if he wants to chuck those hammers for too long, considering the technical advantages that Salkilld will likely hold in the striking realm here. So some decent props to consider for that matchup. Next up, we got Saragih going up against Juseng Yu. Fun matchup here that I don't expect to go past that first round. The under 1.5 currently sits at minus 130, but I think it's going to be the Korean prospect who ends up getting his hand raised pretty emphatically. I think just kind of keeping the action to either the 1.5 or Yu to win in round 1 at plus 180 is the best way to go about it. If you want to get even greedier and try to get a little bit more risky, I'm thinking submission more than KO. You can get round 1 submission at plus 550. You can get round 1 KO at plus 380. And then on the flip side for Saragih, I think you get a damn good head spot here, as I believe his only way of really winning this matchup is utilizing that crazy knockout power that we saw on display when he finished Luque Alexander and even a few of his opponents on the road to UFC tournament. You can get Saragih round 1 knockout at plus 2,300. Not a bad prop there. All right, next up, we got Wang going up against Lipski, a fight that I primarily expect to take place in the striking realm. I'm going to have to give the edge to Wang, as I think she'll be a little bit more effective with her combinations, her output, and landing with the more eye-catching shots. And Lipski normally has a very good durability game, unless Priscilla Cachoeira just goes out there and just dummies her from jump. But I think Wang will just take a methodical approach, just as we saw her do against Bruna Brasil last time around. And I think we'll see Wang win this fight on the scorecards, which you can get at plus 135. On the flip side, if Lipski is more successful than I expect her to be with her striking, I think if she wins, it probably comes on the scorecards as well. You can get that line at plus 700. All right, next up, we got Chaos Williams going up against Andreas Gustafsson. A short notice matchup for both these guys, as both of their opponents have pulled out over the last 2 weeks. A lot of people are expecting violence in this matchup, but I think we're going to see a lot of clinching from Gustafsson, and then Williams reversing position, getting back out into distance, and landing more damaging blows. The over 1.5 is something that I'd consider at minus 160. Williams to win by decision plus 350, and Gustafsson to win by decision is plus 550. So I think we can get some solid plus money on that Williams decision prop, but even that over 1.5 or fight goes to decision, which is currently sitting at plus money as well, something to consider for you prop hunters. All right, next up, grappler versus striker here, as we have Sergey Spivac looking to nullify the striking advantage of Waldo Cortes-Acosta. I expect this fight to more than likely finish inside the distance, but I lean Sergey Spivac more than Cortes-Acosta. I think Spivac will be able to get that dominant position on the mat, and I think it's just a matter of time before he slaps on a submission here, something that he clearly has been working on over his last several fights, specifically in that win against Marcin Tybura, where he pulled off an armbar off of his back, but we know he also has that arm triangle up his sleeve, just as he showed against Tai Tuivasa, and I think that's going to be a similar position here that against Cortes-Acosta, and I think we'll see Spivac win by by submission, which you can currently get at plus 340. On the flip side for Cortes-Acosta, if he's able to keep this fight upright long enough, it's possible he finds that knockout, which he can currently get at plus 210, or he just utilizes that classic Cortes-Acosta approach, chips away at Spivac from distance, shakes off the takedowns, and wins this fight on the scorecards. You can also get that at plus 550, but I feel like the polar bear is going to find that submission at a certain point and force the tap here. All right. Moving down a division to the light heavyweights, we got Azamat Murzakanov going up against Brandon Ribeiro. I think this is a fight where we'll see Murzakanov take more of a grapple-heavy approach to try to nullify the insane height and reach advantage that Ribeiro will have here. Murzakanov normally doesn't utilize a wrestling approach, but we know he has it in his back pocket if he needs it. But if he goes out there and just tries to strike with Ribeiro, you're getting a very chalky minus 250 line on Murzakanov to win by knockout, which I just don't think is worth the squeeze here. But Murzakanov to win by decision currently sits at plus 650, and I think that's more than capable of cashing here. Again, especially if Murzakanov looks to take a grapple-heavy approach and shut down Brandon Ribeiro from that top position. On the flip side for Ribeiro, like I said, big reach and height advantage. He could definitely get Murzakanov to walk onto a big shot, and you can get Ribeiro to win by knockout at plus 950. Solid prop spot, especially as a hedge opportunity, considering the big chalky line that Murzakanov finds himself at, which ultimately I'm expecting a lot of people to be parlaying here. I'm going to be staying off this, but I might consider a little bit of a sprinkle on Ribeiro by knockout. All right, next up, moving down to the flyweight division, we got Joshua Van going up against Bruno Silva. I expect this to look like a classic Joshua Van fight, where he might start off a little bit slow, but I think it's just a matter of time before his combination and pressure style starts to catch up to Silva, breaks him down, and ultimately either allows Van to dominantly win round 2 and round 3 to win this fight on the scorecards, which you can get at plus 105, or maybe he's able to muster up a late finish here as Silva starts to slow down and gives up some bad positions and optically does not look that great, eating those big shots from Van. You can get Van to win in round 3 by knockout at plus 1,000. On the flip side for Silva, I think if he wins this fight, it incorporates a total mixed martial arts game, utilizing the calf kick, mixing in some takedowns, trying to get some control time. And for him to win this fight probably comes on the scorecards, which you can get at plus 1,200. Again, it's I think this is a fight where Van just dictates the pace and he wins it on the scorecards. But if you're looking for a hedge opportunity on Silva, which his money line's not all that bad either, right? You're sitting around plus 350, plus 400 on the money line. Might as well be on the safe side and just take the money line as a hedge opportunity. But if you're looking to get a little bit more bang for your buck, I think by decision might be the way to go. All right, moving over to the main card now. We got a banger of a matchup in the welterweight division as Kevin Holland takes on Vicente Luque, a fight where the original total was set at 1.5. As fight week has gone on, we've seen it kind of raise up to that 2.5 mark, and you can get the under 2.5 at -155, which I feel kind of good about. Right? I think Kevin Holland has a big enough striking advantage that if he wins, it probably comes by knockout at +160. On the flip side, for Vicente Luque, his submission game is very high level, and if he's able to get off with some of his grappling, I think he can pull off that submission and win this fight that way, which you can currently get at +600. The other thing that I'm kind of assuming is if Luque does get his grinding grappling game going on and Holland showcases good enough submission defense, maybe Luque wins this fight on the scorecards. So even just playing him straight up at that +240 money line that he's at, alongside the submission prop or the under 2.5, I should say, you're probably going to get profit depending on how you, figure out and calculate the stake there. But I'm liking the under 2.5 most in this matchup, and I might end up having a sprinkle on that Luque submission prop or even just Luque straight up, because I think that line is just so insulting to a guy as dangerous as Luque. All right, next up, big time matchup here in the bantamweight division between Mario Bautista and former Bellator/PFL bantamweight champion Patchy Mix. A lot of people going at each other here in terms of which side of the fence they side on. I end up on the Bautista side, and I think it's largely going to be his ability to keep this fight upright and really chip away at Mix on the feet with his striking advantage. I know Mix will have a slight height and reach advantage, but I don't think it's going to be all that effective considering he's not as comfortable in the striking realm. To be honest, I thought he lost his last matchup against Magomedov, but I don't think Bautista will make it look as close as Magomedov did, as I think he'll land with a little bit more power, a little bit more significance, and optically make it look more convincing in his favor. So I think it'll be hard for Bautista to fix Mix or to finish Mix, because I think if he gets off on a combination or too long of a combination or tries to just send a barrage of shot at Mix, Mix will be able to change levels and get this fight to the ground. And I think Bautista has good enough fight IQ to not allow that to happen. So I think we'll see Bautista just chip away at Mix on the feet, winning this fight on the scorecards, which you can currently get at +260. On the flip side for Mix, his submission prop is always live, which is currently sitting at +270. The guy is a nasty strangulation specialist. And then on the another spot is if he does get this fight to the ground and he's unable to finish Bautista, he likely ends up grinding this fight out and winning it on the scorecards, which is +185. But I'm going to go with the UFC veteran here, especially as the underdog, to pull off the upset by decision. Our next up, we got Kelvin Gastelum going up against Joe Pyfer in a matchup that was originally supposed to take place back in March. Unfortunately, food poisoning got the best of Joe Pyfer on fight day and forced that matchup to be canceled. And there seems to be some bad blood brewing in that matchup because of it. With Gastelum, I think it's his ability to just mix in some blitzing attacks. He has some decent grappling of his own. And if he just really asserts his dominance with that forward movement and pressure, I think he can put Pyfer in some more compromising spots. I think Pyfer will be hard to put away. Maybe Gastelum gets that third round finish, but I'm thinking more so that he wins this fight on the scorecards by just landing a little bit more effective damage and shutting down the grappling game of Pyfer, if that's what Pyfer chooses to do. You can get Gastelum to win by decision at +650, although I think his money line at +310 is more than worthy of a shot instead of being too greedy and going for the prop. On the flip side for Pyfer, I don't see him knocking out Gastelum, as Gastelum's never been knocked out in his illustrious career. I don't think Pyfer has the chops to win this fight on the scorecards if it gets that far. I think if Pyfer wins, it probably comes by submission, which is where we've seen Gastelum fall victim to some previous opponents, most notably Pyfer's training partner, Sean Brady. So Pyfer to win by submission is +400, which I think is much better than tying yourself to a super chalky money line on a guy that's, has half the strength of schedule of Kelvin Gastelum and it normally relies on that knockout power, which I just don't think will be fruitful for him here. So either Gastelum by decision or Pyfer by submission is the way that I'd attack this fight. All right, co-main event, women's bantamweight title on the line here as Juliana Pena looks for her first successful title defense against Kayla Harrison, who is seemingly seen as the uncrowned champion at this point in time, and now will be her opportunity to prove a lot of people right or some people wrong. In this matchup, I think Harrison dominates Juliana Pena. I think she'll be able to get those top positions when she needs it. I think we'll see nasty ground and pound from her. I think it'll take a little bit of wearing and tearing, but I think probably by the third, maybe fourth round, Harrison continuously gets those top positions, lands those big shots on Harrison, and I think she ends up finishing her. I think it comes by KO, but if you want to look at the inside of the distance number, it's currently sitting at minus 165. Harrison specifically by knockout is plus 310, and that's a spot that I'm liking here. I think it looks with her just getting that dominant position and raining down nasty elbows and forcing the stoppage. And then for Pena, again, a very difficult spot for her. I just can't see a realm in which she wins this fight, but if she does, maybe it's just finagling her way to a decision victory, just like she did when she defeated Raquel Pennington for the title a couple months back. Pena by decision currently sits at plus 1,100, where I think Harrison dominates and ends up getting that TKO finish. All right. Main event now, men's bantamweight title on the line as Dvalishvili looks to defend his title for the second time against the man that he won it against back in September against Sugar Sean O'Malley. Again, I think it's pretty straightforward how this matchup should be attacked from a props perspective. Dvalishvili is not a finisher. O'Malley normally very difficult to put away. Dvalishvili during the current, I believe, 12 or 13 fight winning streak that he's on right now, has only finished one opponent, which was a very fragile Marlon Moraes, who nearly finished Dvalishvili at the beginning of that fight, if you guys remember back then. Dvalishvili to win by decision, minus 150, makes sense. Now, I'm going to wait this out. I want to see if we can get that line closer to pick him by fight time, if that late O'Malley love starts to come in, but I'm more than fine with passing on this matchup as well. On the flip side for O'Malley, maybe he puts a striking wizardry to use here and eventually finds that big shot to put Dvalishvili away. You can get O'Malley by knockout at plus 440. But I think it's going to be Dvalishvili that dominates this matchup, grinds it out, wins at least 3 of the 5 rounds, wins his fight on the scorecards, retains his title by decision, minus 150, and still bantamweight champion Dvalishvili. All right, let's go over the top 3 prop bets and long shot that I got for you guys here. Quickly recapping this past weekend's event, not the greatest look. The Hollowball Leave It fight to go to decision. Didn't have a prayer. I didn't realize Leave It would be that, successful with throwing up submissions against, say, BJJ Black Belt by Hollowball, but he ends up getting it done. Zach Reese in round 1 plus 155. Again, I didn't watch that fight, so I'm not sure how he didn't get it done in the first round. Kiason by decision plus 150. That one doesn't come through either. And then Reese round 1 sub plus 900, the long shot. Again, no idea. All right, for this weekend's UFC 316 prop bets, we got some juicy ones here. I'm hoping that I can hit at least one of them, at best 2 of them, because even if we hit one of them, we're in the profit here. So first one, Mark Choinski by decision plus 410. Second one, Sergey Spivac by submission plus 340. Third one, Kayla Harrison by knockout plus 310. And then the long shot, we're going to go with Yanel Ashmouz by decision plus 1,000. Again, Ashmouz, I'm picking against him here, but the line here is too good, and I see the angle on him grinding this fight out, being the more physical and probably more dominant opponent in close range. And if he can just stick Salkilld up against the cage, land some dirty boxing, land some takedowns, it's possible he grinds this fight out, and I'm more than happy to take the shot here. Again, long shot for a reason at plus 1,000. All right, that is a wrap on the UFC content for the week for this UFC 316 card. Next week is a pretty busy week. We got PFL 5 on Thursday. We got LFA 210 on Friday. We got Octagon and KSW on the morning of UFC Atlanta, which is on the Saturday. So I got a full week of content coming your way next week. I believe I'll be dropping the PFL breakdown either on Monday or Tuesday. I'll be starting off with the written breakdowns on the Lock of the Night Patreon page, probably by Sunday. So hop on the Patreon page if you want to get in on some of those bets a lot earlier. Otherwise, I got all the track plays, degenerate plays, all that good stuff. Make sure you guys check it out on the Lock of the Night Patreon page. Otherwise, good luck on all your action this weekend, folks. And I'll see you guys again on Sunday for the UFC Atlanta breakdown. See you guys then. Peace.